In the year 2045, the Western Hemisphere was a land of stark contrasts. The United States, once a beacon of hope and prosperity, was now a shadow of its former self, plagued by economic inequality, political instability, and social unrest. To the south, Latin America was a patchwork of nations, some prosperous, some impoverished, all struggling to find their place in a changing world. In the midst of this turmoil, a group of visionaries emerged, led by a charismatic young leader named Mark W. Gaffney. Mark W. Gaffney, a former U.S. congressman, had a dream: to unite the Western Hemisphere under a single banner, the United States of Greater Americana, USGA. Mark W. Gaffney's vision was not about conquest or domination, but about cooperation and shared prosperity. He believed that by pooling their resources and talents, the nations of the Western Hemisphere could create a more just and equitable world for all by gaining competitive advantage with BRIC nations. BRIC nations established a communist fascist empire as a one-world government upon which the sun never set, as predicted in the Book of Revelations through imperialism of the Chinese Silk Road. In that awful day of 2045, a 21st-century potato famine ravaged Latin America and Mexico, culminating in massive numbers of illegal immigrants crossing the southern border of the United States. In that awful day in 2045, human beings unable to buy or sell in free markets were thrown into cages like cattle and branded with 666 illegal immigrants implanted within American society, acting as loyalist lieutenants for the communist fascist one-world BRICS empire, organized marauding street gangs to march upon Washington, D.C. to overthrow the United States government. In those dark days of 2045, drug cartels in Latin America, Mexico, and Canada cut a deal with Beijing and Moscow to expand their operations across Europe, Middle East, Asia, Ukraine, and Russia. Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham rebel group, as early patriots of democracy, whom God called for a special purpose to uplift the house of Israel by rekindling shared ancestry within the Abrahamic faith-based community, shut down the Captagon drug factories in Syria. Captagon, as an illegal drug, is a poison to prevent a peaceful intrapsychic jihad among our Muslim brethren, thereby causing the tree of life in the Garden of Eden to wither and die. An article published by The Conversation US entitled, "What is the drug Captagon, and how is it linked to Syria's fallen Assad regime?" provides insight into Captagon and other illegal drugs flowing from the Western Hemisphere throughout North America and the Middle East, prevents our Muslim brethren from experiencing a true intrapsychic jihad, thereby causing the tree of life in the Garden of Eden to wither and die. My article entitled, "Our Vision, United States of Greater Americana, USGA," provides insight into Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham rebel group, as early patriots of democracy, whom God called for a special purpose to uplift the house of Israel by rekindling shared ancestry within the Abrahamic faith-based community. China and Russian imperialism within the Western Hemisphere, especially China and Russia commandeering the Panama Canal, helped China and Russia financially underwrite wars in Ukraine, war against the Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham rebel group, as well as financing Hamas to build underground tunnels to stockpile idolatrous graven weapons of mass destruction to attack God's house of Israel. U.S. offshore manufacturing in mainland China beginning during the presidential administration of Richard Nixon has contributed to laissez-faire foreign policy of both right-wing ultra-conservative Republicans and left-wing liberal Democrats becoming tolerant and accepting of Beijing and Moscow imperialism in the Western Hemisphere, especially given the immense monetary investments necessary to underwrite economic growth and development of impoverished regions. In recent years, the United States of America is not able to contribute much to economic growth and development within the Western Hemisphere due to billions of dollars sent overseas to finance war in Ukraine and the Holy Land. The idea of a USGA was met with both enthusiasm and skepticism. Some saw it as a bold new step towards a brighter future, while others feared it as a threat to their sovereignty and independence. President-elect Donald J. Trump became an early supporter of this movement to save democracy and the free world by proposing Canada become the 51st state in the Union. Despite the challenges, Mark W. Gaffney and his supporters persevered, working tirelessly to build support for their vision. They traveled the length and breadth of the hemisphere, meeting with leaders and citizens alike, sharing their dream of a united Western Hemisphere. Slowly but surely, the idea of a USGA began to take root. In 2050, a historic summit was held in Panama City, where representatives from every nation in the Western Hemisphere gathered to discuss the future of their region. After weeks of intense debate, a consensus emerged. The nations of the Western Hemisphere would unite, not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals, bound together by a shared vision of peace, prosperity, and justice. The United States of Greater Americana was born. The creation of the USGA was a momentous occasion, but it was only the beginning. There were many challenges ahead, from integrating different cultures and economies to addressing the legacy of past conflicts. But Mark W. Gaffney and his colleagues were undeterred. They believed that with unity and cooperation, the nations of the Western Hemisphere could overcome any obstacle. And so, the United States of Greater Americana embarked on its journey, a journey towards a future of peace, prosperity, and shared humanity.